You guys will never believe what happened. I'm Chloe, living in this charming suburban neighborhood in a quiet river town, chasing my dream of becoming a gardener who crafts landscapes like living art. I was expecting another peaceful afternoon in my backyard, just me and my plants, when Vincent, the retired carpenter next door, showed up to fix our shared fence. He's got this rugged, magnetic vibe, think silver hair, steady green eyes that hold a lifetime of craftsmanship, and a voice that could calm a storm. Our chats over the fence have always been polite, neighborly, but today something shifted, and neither of us could pretend it was just friendly anymore. Want to know how it went down? Keep watching, because this story is all about one afternoon that burns brighter than the river at sunset. Like and subscribe for more. Chloe had planned a quiet afternoon in her backyard, a lush oasis in the heart of Rivermere's suburban neighborhood, where the river town's gentle rhythm hummed just beyond her garden gate. Her space was a vibrant haven of blooming roses, tangled vines, and freshly turned soil, the air thick with the scent of lavender and damp earth, the river's shimmer casting golden patterns across her flower beds. Her latest project, a winding path of wildflowers, mirrored her restless energy. Its colors bold and untamed, much like the dangerous desires simmering beneath her composed exterior. She wasn't looking for anything beyond her plants, content to lose herself in her gardening, but lately her thoughts kept drifting to Vincent, the retired carpenter next door, whose reserved presence had become a quiet pull she couldn't ignore. At 64, Vincent was a former craftsman whose rugged charm had caught her eye since she moved into the neighborhood 8 months ago. His silver hair was cropped close. His steady green eyes carried the depth of years shaping wood into arts, and his hands, calloused from decades of wielding tools, moved with a quiet, purposeful grace. His afternoon, Chloe, over the fence, paired with a brief nod, had always felt polite, but distant, like a tool set carefully aside. She'd told herself it was just appreciation for a neighbor who'd once helped her lug a heavy planter, who'd shared a tip about pruning roses during a brief chat. But her dangerous desires, always stirring, sparked a curiosity she couldn't quiet, and today those desires flared into something undeniable. The afternoon was warm, Rivermere alive with the hum of cicadas and the distant ripple of the river, the air heavy with the scent of blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass. Chloe had been tending her wildflowers, her hands smudged with soil, when she heard the rhythmic tap of a hammer from the fence line. Vincent was there, toolbox open, fixing a loose board on their shared wooden fence, his flannel shirt rolled up to his elbows, his focus steady but approachable. The fence was looking rough, he called over, his voice a low, steady hum, like the creak of well-worn wood. Thought I'd patch it up before it falls over. Chloe stood, brushing dirt from her jeans, her heart skipping as she walked to the fence, her dangerous desires nudging her forward. "You're saving the day again," she teased, her voice light but charged. Leaning against the fence, her hazel eyes glinting with invitation. "Coffee for your troubles? I've got some brewing." She gestured toward her back door, her curiosity outweighing her plan for a solitary afternoon. He hesitated, his gaze flickering over her face, a hint of warmth breaking through his reserved demeanor before he nodded, setting his hammer down. "Coffee sounds good," he said, his smile cautious but softening, like a craftsman testing a new joint. "But only if you tell me about those wildflowers. They're stealing the show." He stepped through the gate into her backyard, the space a cozy haven of blooming beds, a wooden bench under a willow tree, and a small patio table by the open kitchen door, the river's golden light filtering through the leaves. A portable speaker played a soft acoustic tune, its notes weaving through the air like a gentle breeze. mingling with the scent of soil, coffee, and a trace of Vincent's aftershave, something woody, like cedar. They settled at the patio table, mugs of coffee steaming between them, Chloe's gardening gloves tossed aside like a forgotten tool. The acoustic music crackled softly, its melody wrapping the backyard in a warm glow, the river's shimmer casting golden flecks across the grass. Their conversation started easy, her wildflower path, his tips on fixing fence, but Chloe's mind drifted to flashes of their past interactions. Vincent's hand steadying hers as they moved the heavy planter, his laugh when she tripped over a garden hose, the way he'd lingered to admire her rose trellis, his voice soft as he'd said, "You've got a way with growing things, Chloe." Each memory carried a spark she'd tried to dismiss, chalking his distance up to neighborly reserve, but now, sitting close, the air felt charged, like a seed ready to break ground. The talk turned personal, the acoustic notes fading to a soft hum as they sipped their coffee, its bitter warmth lingering on her tongue. Chloe shared her passion for gardening, how it felt like shaping life itself. "It's like I'm planting pieces of myself," she said, her voice soft but steady, her fingers tracing the rim of her mug, the ceramic warm against her skin. "I want my gardens to tell stories, to make people stop and feel." Does that make sense? Her eyes met his, searching for a glimpse of the man behind the polite nods, her dangerous desires stirring under his steady gaze. Vincent nodded, his hands resting on the table, close enough that she could feel their warmth, a quiet strength. "Makes perfect sense," he said, his voice low, resonant, like the hum of a well-crafted chair. "Your garden's got that fire, Chloe. I saw it in that trellis you built, wild but deliberate. It's hard to ignore." His words were careful, but a new weight lingered in them, a hesitation that made her pulse quicken, her curiosity flaring. She leaned forward, the table creaking softly, the scent of coffee mingling with the garden's sweetness. "Hard to ignore?" she teased, her voice playful but edged with daring, her hazel eyes locking on his. "That's a big compliment from the guy who barely waves over the fence. You sure you're not just being neighborly?" Her dangerous desires pushed her to test the boundaries, the backyard shrinking to just the two of them, the acoustic melody, a soft heartbeat in the background. He chuckled, setting his mug down, his eyes holding hers a moment longer than usual, a flicker of something unguarded in his gaze. "I'm not that neighborly," he said, his voice warm but tinged with a quiet intensity, like a carpenter revealing a hidden grain. "You're not just the gardener next door, Chloe. You've got something real." The acoustic tune swelled softly, the air heavy with the scent of lavender and the weight of their moment, the river's golden light filtering through the willow's branches. Chloe's mind raced, replaying more moments. The first time Vincent had stopped by to offer a spare tool for her trellis, his nod curt but his eyes lingering. A rainy afternoon when he'd shared a story about crafting a cedar bench, his voice weaving warmth as she listened. The quiet moment when he'd helped her move that planter, his hand brushing hers, his voice soft. "All of you." Each memory tightened the thread between them, pulling her closer to the edge of something bold and new, her heart pounding with the possibility that his reserve wasn't indifference. "Hey guys," Chloe said, her voice bright but laced with mischief, as if speaking to her imaginary audience, her eyes glinting as she leaned back, breaking the tension for a moment. "We're about to get into this spicy portion of the story, so please don't forget to like and subscribe." She grinned, the words a playful nod to her daring, but her heart pounded as she turned back to Vincent. The air buzzing with anticipation, the acoustic notes swelling like a cue for the next act. Vincent shifted, his body angling toward her, his elbow brushing hers on the table, the contact sending a spark through her like a root breaking soil. He set his mug down, his movements deliberate, his green eyes searching hers with a new intensity like he was measuring a perfect cut. "Chloe," he said, his voice low, calm, but strained, each word chosen with care. "I've been keeping things friendly, keeping my distance because it's safer that way. But you, your garden, your fire, the way you look at the world, it's not just friendly anymore. It hasn't been for a while." The confession hit like a ray of sunlight, sharp and illuminating, dissolving the polite fence between them. Her heartbeat quickened, her breath catching as she held his gaze, the river's golden light casting shadows across his face. She could laugh it off, keep things light, but her dangerous desires were bold, hungry for the truth he'd laid bare. "Not just friendly," she whispered, her voice unsteady but daring, leaning closer, her shoulder brushing his, the tension thick enough to touch. "So what is it, Vincent? What's been going on behind that fence?" Her eyes locked on his, flickering to his lips before returning, her courage pushing her forward. He didn't move, his eyes steady, warm but piercing, like he was seeing the grain of her soul. "It's you," he said, his voice soft but firm, like a hammer striking true. "You're not just my neighbor, Chloe. Your passion, your garden, the way you make everything come alive, it's magnetic. I've been trying to keep things simple, keep that line clear, but you walk out here bold and real, and it's like trying to ignore a storm in my own backyard." Her mouth went dry, the acoustic music fading to a distant hum, the backyard narrowing to just them, the table, the willow, the golden glow of the river beyond. Her mind flashed to every interaction, his guarded nods over the fence, the way he'd linger after fixing a gate latch, his voice soft when he'd said her name. She'd thought he was just being polite, but now his words planted a vivid truth, one she hadn't dared imagine. Her friend Lila's warning echoed faintly, "He's so quiet, Chloe." Don't read into him, but Lila was wrong. This wasn't her imagination. This was real, raw, and electric. "So that's why you're always so reserved?" she asked, her voice teasing but pointed, her hand brushing his on the table, the touch electric, sending a shiver through her like a vine curling toward light. "Because I'm magnetic?" Her eyes glinted, her dangerous desires holding her steady. The air thick with possibility, the acoustic melody, a soft pulse in the background. Vincent laughed, a low, warm sound, his fingers curling slightly around hers. Not pulling away, the contact warmed and steady like a well-crafted joint. "You're impossible," he said, his voice rich with a mix of amusement and strain, his eyes twinkling with a warmth she hadn't seen before. "You show up out here with dirt on your hands and that spark in your eyes, and I'm supposed to stay on my side of the fence? You're rewriting every plan I've got, Chloe." She grinned, her heart soaring, the tension a living thing between them pulsing like a heartbeat. "Maybe I like rewriting plans," she said, her voice soft but honest. Her eyes locked on his, the acoustic notes swelling like applause. "Maybe I don't want you to stay on your side anymore." His chuckle was warm, his thumb tracing a slow line across her hand, the touch sparking a fire in her chest that felt like a garden blooming wild. "Your trouble," he said, his eyes twinkling with a mix of caution and something deeper, something that made the backyard feel like a stage set for two. "But I've always been drawn to trouble. And you, Chloe, you're the kind I can't walk away from." The words landed like a perfect chord, her heart racing, the tension between them alive and electric. They didn't move, the table holding them close, the river outside shimmering like a backdrop. The conversation stretched on, hours melting away as the acoustic music looped, its notes a soft heartbeat to their words. Chloe shared more than she'd planned, her fears of her gardens being overlooked, her passion for creating beauty, her dreams of designing landscapes that tell stories. Vincent listened, his eyes never leaving hers, his presence grounding her like a well-placed root. He shared, too, his regrets from the carpentry trade, the pieces he never built, the way her boldness had cracked his careful routine, like a gardener rewriting the seasons. Flashbacks filled the silences, painting their connection in vivid hues. She remembered their first meeting when Vincent had offered to fix a wobbly fence post, his nod brief, but his eyes lingering. A sunny afternoon when he'd shared a story about crafting a cedar pergola, his voice weaving warmth as she listened. The quiet moment when he'd admired her wildflower path, his hand brushing hers as he'd said, "This, all of you." Each memory was a seed growing the tapestry of their moment, the backyard, their stage, the river's lights, their spotlight. The afternoon faded to dusk, the air heavier, the tension a constant hum, like a vine curling towards sunlight. Chloe's dangerous desires pushed her to keep going, to lean into the spark. But Vincent's confession lingered, a truth she couldn't ignore. "You didn't answer my question," she said, her voice teasing but pointed, her hand still close to his, the warmth of his touch lingering. "What do you want, Vincent? Now that we're not pretending it's just friendly." He leaned back, his smile slow, his eyes tracing her face like he was measuring a perfect cut. "I want to see where this goes," he said, his voice soft but deliberate, like a carpenter revealing a hidden grain. "You're bold, Chloe, bolder than I was ready for. You walk out here with that fire in your garden, and you're turning my world upside down. I'm not sure I want to stop you." Her breath caught, the backyard shrinking further, the river's light framing them like a final act. Lila's warning echoed again, but it felt distant, drowned out by the pulse of her heart, the thrill of her dangerous desires. Vincent's hand stayed near hers, the space between them charged with unspoken promise. "You're making it really hard to keep this neighborly," she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her hazel eyes locked on his, her courage holding her steady. He laughed, his hand shifting closer, his fingers brushing hers again, the touch warm and electric like a spark in a quiet garden. "Neighborly's overrated," he said, his voice low, rich, carrying the weight of their shared moment. "What do you want, Chloe?" Now that the fence is down, her heart pounded, the memory of his confession echoing, the spark of his touch still warm on her skin. What did she want? Solitude, simplicity, the quiet afternoon she'd planned? Or this him, the thrill, the fire he ignited in her heart? "I want to keep this," she said, her voice steady now, her eyes locked on his, her hand pressing lightly against his, the contact grounding her like a root in rich soil. "This feeling, this moment. You..." His smile widened, his eyes twinkling with warmth and intensity, like a craftsman seeing a piece come to life. "That's a bold choice," he said, his voice soft but charged, the acoustic music's final notes fading into silence, leaving only the hum of the river outside. "But I've always been a fan of bold." The backyard was still, the river outside, a golden mirror, reflecting their moment back to them. Vincent's hand lingered near hers, the air alive with possibility. The gardening gloves on the table forgotten like a tool left aside. "Good night, Chloe," he said, his voice soft but heavy, his eyes holding hers as he stood, offering her a way out but leaving the gate wide open. "Good night, Vincent," she said, her voice a mix of teasing and truth, her heart pounding as she stood, brushing soil from her hands, the spark between them brighter than the river's sunset glow. She watched him step back through the gate, her dangerous desires racing, the memory of his truth, his touch lingering like a garden she couldn't stop tending. She stayed in the backyard a moment longer, the evening air cool, the neighborhood's rhythm soothing, the river's hum a quiet applause. As she leaned against the fence, her heart ablaze with the thrill of what might come next, she knew her dangerous desires had crossed the line, leaving only a bold, new chapter, one fearless move at a time.